recognized by his current enemies and enthusiastically adored by his true friends. Please welcome Jeff.
All right. Thankfulness to Stillwater Books and Fallon and Judy and Stranger Stories. I got a strange one for you guys. I titled this ditty Brimstone Blues. My grandfather, my mother's father, owned a local well drilling company. After dropping out of high school in the 11th grade, I worked through the summer for my grandfather. This job was the pits. I made $7 an hour. All the other employees, the drill rig operator, his apprentice, the backhoe driver, the pump guys, were serious bikers. Members of the Devil's Disciples. A real tough crew. Scab Man, this dirty, leather-vested Viking guy, worked with me the most. He hated my stupid ass. Scab Man had this tattoo that if he extended one arm upward was a woman's leg from the armpit to his elbow. And from his stinky pit down his rib cage was the other leg. And in his armpit was, well, he'd put me in a headlock every morning and say, "Smell it. This is the first and last time you'll get close to this one." It was hell. Sheer hell. I once tried to impress these bikers and wore a Harley Davidson t-shirt to work. Big mistake. One guy ran out to the parking lot where they all lined up their bikes and told Scab Man, who ran in shrieking profanities in a frenzy. It was as if he was representing Laconia and Sturgis and other places I'd never been and knew not the iconic significance of. He grabbed my shirt and about 3 inches of flesh from my chest, and with his accelerator hand tore my shirt and chest muscle off of me, or so it seemed at the time. They all beat me up so badly until my grandfather called down there to the back room of the shop, yelling, "What the hell is going on down there? Get to work!" They took last kicks and then went about their day. Overnight, for obvious reasons, I had to come up with a get-rich-quick scheme, a real moneymaker, to get me out of this devil's lair. Somehow I came up with a fringe idea that was associated with water testing and well water work. I decided to sell, on the side, radon test kits. Radon, then, and probably now, is a very controversial element. It's highly debated, seeping with political dispute and existential issues of all kinds. I went in the next day and raided my grandfather's files, all his customers, 3 generations worth of honesty-forged clients, friends, and a few Mason connections. I'll save that story for another day. I cold called hundreds of the most wealthy and loyal of my grandfather's customers, offering safety and solid radon proofing for their homes, 100% guaranteed. Many people were enthusiastically interested. I'd survive work in silence and humiliation from 8 to 5, and then after my shift was allowed to take the company van, a Ford shitbox honestly, to sell my radon test kits. Within a month, I was making thousands of dollars with this new enterprise. I felt so, American. I talked to Mrs. Giordano, wife of a semi-famous importer and union consultant who I think had something to do with garbage. Not sure. Mrs. Giordano bought the most I could offer. When one radon test kit came back inconclusive, she hired me to do a battery of tests. The thing is, these kits were akin to a urine sample cups, you know, the ones your doctor gives you at a routine physical. I didn't know much about what they did or what radon was even. People generally did the test themselves, following the enclosed directions. Self-addressed stamped postage, sent it to a lab somewhere, Gary, Indiana or some shit. She was very pushy, and the money was so good, I couldn't have refused her offer. I arrived at the address and talked into some microphone. Then the sprawling gates opened. I drove to what seemed to be 5 miles into their ranch compound in North Scituate, Rhode Island. It was gorgeous. I'd never seen such fortune. They had horses and servants running everything cars. Her husband had erected these huge bronze statues of olive oil bottles, an homage to his success. The house was white, everything white, with Romanesque decor throughout. I went down into the basement where I presumed the radon might be located. I stood around with my pea-cups, trying to figure out how to sample something. I overheard these guys talking loudly upstairs. It was Mr. Giordano and 2 other guys. They said something about taking his wife's friggin' money and all this climate warming gas bullshit. Then this kid needs to be taught a lesson and may have to be taken care of. I think that's what he said. I know that's what I heard. And I heard enough. In a panic, I fled out of their bulkhead into that shitbox van and drove home. I called in sick for a week. Stopped my radon test kit empire entirely. Returned no calls and collected no money. Paranoia had seeped into my brain. I did go out late one night with some buddies to have some beers in Providence, after which we stopped at a late night diner to eat at about 2 a.m. Randomly, I heard these 2 guys in sharkskin suits talking in the corner. The guy said that the kid who ran, yeah, he wants that kid thrown off the roof of the Providence Place parking lot. Another guy replied, the mall, Marone, that's gonna be a friggin' mess. This was enough. At 7 a.m. I called my grandfather and told him I was a dead man. I begged him to tell me how they came for people. How could I set up, like a sit down or something with somebody? I would do whatever it took to make things right with Mr. Giordano before I lost my life or my thumb or whatever may happen. He listened blankly and said, you been smoking that wacky tobacco again? He thought I was nuts and hung up. I heard that he did call Mrs. Giordano, and she just said she didn't need any more radon test kits because they had a radon mitigation system installed, and thanked him. Back with Scab Man in the morning. He let me drive the Mack dump truck that day. Every time I put my foot on the brake going down the long, steep hill, he'd punch me in the leg very hard, yelling at me. He explained how real truckers downshifted to slow a truck up and didn't use the brakes due to their being air-powered. Eventually the air runs out or some shit. One time I Jake braked to the bottom of the hill, and Scab Man informed me that we actually didn't have brakes the whole ride down, and he was quite convinced we were gonna die. But good job. I accepted my $7 an hour wage and was happy to be back with Scab Man again.